hoisted a plane into the air. It landed in a tree, and it stayed there for what seemed like weeks. All right, it stayed there for a long time because it was not, it was not relief. It was not emergency. Yeah, in a disaster, you have emergencies, as we can see as we look across the landscape. And what we want is to have the resources on hand to deal with emergencies and to deal with recovery. Reconstruction, you can plan. You can, put that into budgetary forecasts and put it in your public investment program and plan as to how and when you're going to reconstruct that. So that in a way that does not interrupt or put your fiscal trajectory off track.
Let me ask you this, because as you talk about the recovery mode, is the government prepared to advance any sort of support financially or otherwise to JPS to help with the reconnection efforts across the island still outstanding?
Okay, that's a tricky one. The resources of the government are not intended to subsidize private companies. JPS is a private company in which the government has an interest. To the extent that JPS needs resources as a private company, it can get resources in a private market, private credit markets, or it can raise money from its shareholders, which includes the government. If there were a call for raising equity from shareholders, then yes, the government could participate in that. But, regular sort of subsidies to a private company, that would not be the first call on resources, yeah? That wouldn't be the first call.
But with the impact on productivity of the absence of electricity and the obvious need for assistance in parishes like St. Elizabeth and so forth, what sort of support can government provide even for private entities such as the Light and Power Company?
Let me tell you something that we are, yes, what we can do, Emily, JPS had a challenge with their LNG facility, which is a major production facility. LNG is highly flammable, can be a dangerous fuel, and it's stored in a floating vessel off the coast of Clarendon near to the plant. When the hurricane began to make its way, that vessel filled with LNG had to leave for safer harbor. Having a vessel filled with liquefied natural gas in the midst of a hurricane could create a disaster of its own. Having that vessel leave Jamaica, JPS had to switch to ADO, which is diesel oil. And diesel oil does not benefit from the same doesn't have the same tax benefits as LNG. And the reason for that is that it's dissuasive, right? We don't want JPS to have the incentive to use ADO, right? Because ADO is more expensive for Jamaica.
Just hold on for me. Just hold on. I'm so sorry. I have to take a break and come back, Minister. Thank you, listeners. We're back with Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke. We're in the recovery phase. He's saying that there are different phases: relief, recovery, reconstruction. So I've asked him what sort of support can the government provide to JPS. He's acknowledged JPS is a private company, so it's a bit tricky to do that. But he's giving us a scenario in which support has been had by JPS from the government. You're talking about the LNG and then the diesel oil, Minister.
Right. So let me just say that obviously JPS is under the portfolio of the Ministry of Energy, and I think they have been doing a good job in updating the public on the return of electricity. What falls in my domain, as I was explaining to you, that ADO is a less attractive fuel for Jamaica, and so there's a disincentive for JPS to use it, and therefore the tax considerations are different. In the advent, however, of a natural disaster, when due to no fault of their own, LNG is not available, right? For the safety of Jamaicans, the LNG storage vessel has been moved out of Jamaican waters. The JPS has reached out to say, could we favorably consider providing a waiver on the use of ADO to power their station to the benefit of the Jamaican consumer. And that is something that we are favorably considering.
Okay.
So that is something that the government can do, government is inclined to do. And I'll issue something more definitive later to confirm that that's the direction we're moving in.
What about for NWC?
Well,
It's our company.
NWC is a fully owned Jamaican entity. And again, that falls under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And again, I believe that they've been doing a great job in getting that back on track and informing people. But, we could look at things that making sure that the pumping stations have generators and possibly go out and procure some of those. There's, things like that can be done to aid the recovery effort.
Yes. So, based on the policy notice you've had concerning the tropical cyclone policy, give me an idea as to whether in the new dispensation, in the new insurance cycle, we're going to be looking at increased premium for that one. Or how do the premiums go? Who pays? I know you say Canada and the World Bank have some input.
No, the premium we pay. But I know that Canada has provided a lot of assistance.
Yes. How much do we pay? We pay per year, per month, quarterly, what? Under the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Fund.
We pay annually.
Yes.
For the Caribbean catastrophe, we pay a premium annually. I don't have the figure on me, but it's certainly over $1 billion. It's
over $1 billion Jamaican.
Yes.
And
over. I don't want to be.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, it's in that. It's over $1 billion, between 1 and 2. I can't remember exactly how much it is.
And how long now have we been paying the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance?
We have been paying that for several years, and we have even increased our limit. Here's the thing about insurance, though, Emily. Again, the CRIF is the fourth layer, right? So the first layer has to trigger, the second has to trigger, the third has to trigger, the fourth. Some natural disasters will only trigger your first layer. Some will trigger your first and second. Others will trigger your first, second, and third. And some, like burial, will trigger first, second, third, and fourth. And then, God forbid, we don't want. I know everybody wants to see the cat bond sort of triggered, but we really don't want that to Emily.
No, of course not. I know
because
that.
The reason why we have it is that we cannot leave ourselves exposed to that kind of damage. But if you could guarantee me that it's not going to happen, then we wouldn't need it. If you could say to me, there's no way next year we're going to have, a high intensity category 4 or category 5, then, we could do away with it. Anyway, I went off track.
So this 2.5 billion payout that we're getting,
yes,
under the tropical cyclone, this is a trigger of what level of the policy?
The policy has a limit of $80 million. It's 20% of the policy limit.
Okay. So it's a very low level trigger then?
Yes, it's a low level trigger. Consistent with what we know about the storm.
And I was asking you, so we pay premium annually of about $1 billion for
it's
that.
Over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion. Do you anticipate there will be an increase with the payout we are now getting of $2.5 billion?
So you mean, let's say we kept the coverage exactly the same, whether there will be more, it will cost more?
Yes.
I'm not. Let me say this: interest rates have as much of an impact on premium, right, as probabilities. And it might be that when we come to renew, we're in a different interest rate environment,
yes,
which counteracts or acts as which neutralizes any sort of risk-based increase. But remember that these models that either the CRIF who provide that insurance or cat bond investors, the models that they use are based on 100-year databases, right? The databases of 100 years of storms emerging in the Atlantic and making their way across the Caribbean. So it's unlikely that one event, and especially an event that is not, while terrible for sections of the island, is not devastating on a national basis.
I understand, but the
It's
point
unlikely-
is, the point
it's
is at the
unlikely.
moment you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm giving an opinion that's
Yeah.
unlikely to significantly impact it.
All right. So I suppose later on in the week you will be able to tell us how much you're using out of the 7 billion that is now available to you for recovery effort. Yeah.
Yes. So we might, just to make listeners aware, just to be clear, right? We may, allocate or reallocate aspects of the budget. That's always a possibility. So when we talk about how much, I'll be very clear when I speak about what our expenditure is going to be, what the sources of it are, right? So some sources will be from disaster risk financing sources. Others will be, from, other things that we have to do with the budget. So I'll be very clear on that.
Okay.
One thing that we have to, as I've been at pains to point out, we've got to leave something, right, in the event that there are other natural disasters to come our way between now and November.
Okay, so I suppose whatever we spend now, bearing that in mind, we may have some sort of supplementary budget post-November to do whatever else is left. Yes, to rethink. Yes. All right. I have to go. I had a caller last week, though, who complained that in your constituency, you're in Northwest St. Andrew, yeah?
Yes.
That there is a gully in the vicinity of Maynard Avenue, Hemmings Way, Crescent, Milton Avenue to Shakespeare. That gully has never been cleaned, and he theorizes it's because those people really don't vote Labour. But there's another gully, Sherlock Gully, that is always clean, and the people up close to Sherlock Gully, they vote Labour. Can you say anything about those two gullies?
I heard about that call when it occurred, and I checked it out. I got in touch with the councillor for that division. Clearly, we have an organization of 3 councillors in my constituency with whom I work very closely. And, he informed me that was not an accurate portrayal. The drains that are selected for cleaning are drains that are in need of being cleaned. And there are some drains and gullies that get affected more than others. And there has been a response to drains that need to be cleaned. And to the so
he says the one at Maynard Avenue, it needs to be cleaned, and it has never been cleaned.
Well, that's not true that it has never been cleaned. That's not accurate.
You know when last it was cleaned?
I wouldn't have that information on me, but as I said, I checked with the councillor. Remember, I'm not.
I love to talk to the councillor, Minister. If you can send me the contact for the councillor so I can get some more specific details, I'd be grateful. Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah.
That was a very mischievous claim.
It doesn't matter. I can only say the mischief of it when I get the facts that I want from the councillor. So please let me have that information, will you?
No problem.
All the best to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. Finance Minister Nigel Clarke. I really want to hear what the schedule is for the cleaning of gullies. I mean, we can make all the claims we want, but factually, how much money is allocated by when? I know we normally go with the hurricane season, and we don't typically have a hurricane developing in June. So gullies may not be cleaned before June. And you may have 3 cleans down to December, and then January, February down to May. At least once, I believe the gullies should be cleaned, even though the hurricane season properly gets active August, September in Jamaica based on, the historical context.